Welcome back, everybody, to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm Solaris BlueRaven, and I'm here with my very special guest, Dr. Heather Lynn. And Heather, you with me?
Yes.
All right. Excellent information. I'm just letting you roll with this data. It's fascinating. And boy, a lot has transpired since the last time we talked.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah, it's been a while. I missed you. I
I
love
miss
the
you
show. I
too.
love your listeners. Everybody's so open-minded and free thinking, and I love this revolutionary kind of, feel here. It really gives me hope that people are doing more than just waking up now, but I think they're starting to hopefully take action. And that's something that I really like to try to impress upon people is that, action is it's needed, and it's not necessarily something that takes too much to do. We can all do a part. And like we were talking about museums, because I sometimes go into this and people are like, oh, well, then I'm not going to go to museums, or maybe we shouldn't go to the Hall of Human Origins, and this and that, and like we're not going to fund them. And I understand those sentiments, and it would seem logical not to do that, but I would argue that we should do the opposite. We should become more involved in museums. We should, if we have the time, if some of us are lucky enough to, be able to volunteer or even join a board, we should try to infiltrate these organizations
Hmm.
for the better. And because we have to have museums, we have to have places that, we can learn, and that can, preserve our history to the best of, our ability as humans. But um, we gotta go and clean this up. I think
Hmm.
there's too much. I know from working in this, that these this kind of field, these kinds of people, and again, I don't want to be an us versus them, and I'm not trying. I know it might also sound hypocritical because I've have degrees and whatnot, but I feel like, well, I was on that side and I've seen things. I've
Hmm.
seen things,
Right.
and now I'm
Hmm.
I can't unsee them, and it
Right,
just
brother.
I
Yeah.
didn't come from that. I came from a really impoverished background with a really, not a good time in life. I write about that in the intro to my book Anthrotheology, a little bit about my background and what's led me to the down the path I'm on. And so I didn't have an easy time. Nobody handed me anything. I had to work to death to get anywhere, and I didn't even start in a great school. I started at community college and then transferred 100 times, and I had to piece this thing together.
Hmm.
So I wasn't handed anything in any kind of like silver platter. And so I go into this, world, and I'm starry eyed and amazed. And I start seeing things that didn't sit well with me, this sense of entitlement. I started seeing administrative people who brought, limousines to work. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is taxpayer funded. Why are you taking a limo? Like, I'm talking like, small time, colleges. Like, what are you doing? Why are you? It was just mind blowing. And
Hmm.
so, I started waking up to a lot of these things, and sort of got a little bit jaded, but not completely, because I'm still believing in the overall sentiment. I just think what needs to happen is a big cleanup. I think we
Hmm.
need to go in and do something about this and sort of reclaim our history, reclaim, you know, our rights to knowing the truth about our past.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. Truth is power. I mean, once you have the real information, you have the upper hand, in my opinion. And if you have the 1% hoarding all the data and hiding all these ancient artifacts, and also using whatever advanced technology that was there, or they're probably reverse engineered some of it, I suspect. So a lot of that stuff. I mean, they've acquired all this information, which makes them in the illusion of power. However, if everybody was educated and up to speed on all this, then everybody would be equal. And I'm not one for believing in status of people insofar as class versus whatever they do on the timeline. I don't care. It's about soul and consciousness, and we're all star beings, as I've mentioned before. So I don't have that whole thing where it's division. It's energy and consciousness when it boils down to. So yeah, we do have an inherited right to know what's going on in all timelines and all timelines, especially with history and his story, her story, versions of truth, versions of lies. It's amazing. I applaud you for what you're doing now, putting the truth out there and actually going toe to toe with some of these people. Now, you did say that you had your life threatened.
Multiple times. Initially with the Sumerian controversy, I did like twice. One was a little more serious, and the other one was just sort of like probably an internet troll. You get these things. And so I wasn't totally concerned. But when I moved on a little more and I started writing Land of the Watchers, a lot of weird things started happening because now I don't know if this had anything to do with it, but after that whole incident with the law firm and a couple things. I was also then contacted by a private investigator, and or at least somebody claiming they
Well,
were.
watch
I
out
mean,
for them.
right. I mean, that sounds really crazy. Like, investigate all you want. I'm just sitting here doing my thing. Like, it's not that interesting. So, I started getting weird calls and weird things. But, um, I ended up getting a letter that said, like, you've been warned. And I thought, still, what am I to make of that? But I did contact police here and there. And because I
Mhm.
have had some issues before, I write about this on my blog. I have a statement about, I call it my attacker, because I was, you know, kidnapped and assaulted some years ago. And that person went to prison and didn't spend long enough there
Mhm.
and has subsequently been released and spends a lot of time stalking and trying to harm me to this day. So,
Wow.
I'm already dealing with like ticking off oil companies or whatever.
Mhm.
But on a more personal level that I would think would be unrelated, I do deal with this on a daily basis. I've had to, I have a guard dog, I have a security system, I can't go places without, a weapon. I have,
Good for you.
you
Conceal
know,
and carry.
yeah, totally.
No,
No, it's seriously, I mean, that's
I
what
mean, I mean it. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
we
Lock
got
and
to
load,
do
honey. That's
lock
all
and
there is
load,
to it. Absolutely.
exactly. And so I'm all about that because this person who ended up getting released from prison, who admitted to everything, and I mean, that was the mind blowing part, and I think all of the stuff has contributed to um, my passion for justice, because I
Mhm.
feel that a lot of times there is not like a sense, there's no justice.
Right.
How is it that somebody can, you know, put you through this and have multiple witnesses, but and forget the witnesses. He actually was on tape saying, this is what I did, and this is all the details, and then I have to go through, hell and back to, you know, get this conviction, and it works, and it was pretty easy, but then we only get 4 years. Like, really? And drug charges for like marijuana get more than that. I'm like,
Mhm.
seriously? This is crazy. So this person goes on and, stalks me and puts out things online, and they also then they're on multiple drugs. They've been picked up for drug charges, and currently
Mhm.
there's a warrant out for their arrest, and they're looking for him right now. And so I've been sort of having to deal with that. And so, this is just something I deal with. Like I said, this is a very personal thing. I don't usually like to ever go into it because I don't think it has anything to do with my research, and it has nothing to do with me. But I was forced to have to confront this because I had a lot of, blowback and things going on, and this person trying to do things. And what was really weird to me, or something that I guess is a little disconcerting, is that this person is mentally ill, completely mentally ill, clearly, but he's also violent, and he's obsessed to this day. He's yeah, I mean, there's so much that's just frightening about this person,
Mhm.
and they live probably about 20 minutes from me.
Oh no.
They're a registered sex offender. And so I know, and I put their picture, their mugshots all over my blog, and the link to all this stuff, because I have to, in order to show people, hey, this is real and this is what's going on. So if anything ever happens to me, look here first and here second. But
Mhm.
um,
Right. Yeah.
what what concerns me is this person is desperate. They have nothing. Um, if if there ever were a patsy, if anybody ever wanted to pay someone off that would be, an easy person to just, I mean, that's something that I was concerned with, is that,
Mhm.
if somebody were to go to this individual and say, hey, drug addict and crazy person, I know you already want to do this. How about we just, give you the means and whatever. And of course they would fall for it. This is something that I've, considered,
Mhm.
that if they then were paid and encouraged, and then they did something, well, whoever hired them to do so would have great plausible deniability, because they could say there wouldn't even have to be answered about it. It's just clearly this person had it out for me, so it was just like this random occurrence or whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
it's so these are the things that I deal with, and so when I get a lot of these threats, I have to really go through and trace them and contact my local sheriff, and I'm always going through these things. So it's bad enough to go through that on a personal level, and so I try to just move on from that and focus on my work. But then when I get more threats from all these things talking about, now this is associated with my work, and then they also know this person, I get very detailed messages about how this will potentially go down.
Mhm.
Now I'm concerned, and so that's why sometimes I have to maybe come on here and kind of just put it out there, because if in the event something ever happened to me, there are, There are paths, there are like,
Benchmark.
roads to benchmark. There's roads, there's hints and clues as to what may have happened actually to me.
That's
So
absolutely correct. Yeah, you have to be out there communicating the information. Well, join my club. I've done it in the past also. But yeah, you have to put the truth out there. It's amazing to me they let this guy go. I can't believe it. As soon as he started stalking you again, they should have locked him up.
it is. I can't even believe it. I really can't. I don't even know how this is how this is. I'm mind blown. And this
Mhm.
individual actually went, and this is crazy. This is so like off topic, but let me just say this. This individual went 2 years ago when he got out of prison on a show on that was broadcast by Clear Channel Radio. It was a show that was nationally syndicated. Okay, and it was one of those morning like shock jock kind of things. And his whole thing was, I'm going on here to prove my innocence and I'm going to take a lie detector test. And so he goes on there and tries to like run my name through the ground and all this. Now, this was on live, like this was a morning show.
Mhm.
Now, they were playing into this guy and they were just, being very, chauvinistic and disgusting. And I felt terrible because I started getting calls about this. And it happened to be 2 days before the anniversary of the date that this happened, which is something that I dealt with emotionally. And it had been years since it happened, but it's still like a soft spot there. So I didn't
Right.
want to be reminded. So here I tune into this guy who's going on and telling all these things, how this happened. And he's telling his side of the story, which is ridiculous. And then, he goes to the lie detector. Well, the only saving grace that I had, the only like vindication I had was that he failed the lie detector and on the air, which I thought that was really funny. And then in addition to that, he actually divulged that he had been having like sexual relationships with his sister and
Ugh.
he had molested children. And I mean, so this went out publicly like all over the place. And and he threatened to hurt me and my family. And so and this was on Clear Channel Radio. Like
Wow.
this was on the radio. And so I call and I tell the local police, and this just basically is a testament to the injustice and the corruption, because I call the sheriff, my local sheriff's department, and I say, hey, this is what's going on. And they're like, well, there's really nothing we can do. Like, well,
What?
I call Clear Channel. I say, listen, I demand, something to be done. I at least no, this is not right. You shouldn't even be giving this man a platform. I mean, they didn't care. Nobody cared, and so I had to essentially be victimized a second time at the hands of Clear Channel Radio
Wow.
and this criminal who was clearly a criminal. And he got but like I said, it was quite funny because the whole radio show ended up being like a big blast on him because he clearly is a sick, mentally ill person with violent tendencies.
Mhm.
And so the only saving grace was that, but it really wasn't much, because at the end of the day, there is currently a sick individual out there who is obsessed with like harming me and who has
Mhm.
proven that they've done it in the past and they're destined to do it again. And
Right.
so that's troublesome. I'm dealing with that. I deal with, I had to deal with a lot of that this past year. And so I had to kind of get a little quiet. In addition to that, being quiet, I ended up, after getting this letter, and I don't know if it's related, but the letter that said, you were warned, um, I went to log in on my just general Facebook and all the social media, and I couldn't get in.
What?
There was nothing. It had been locked. And I noticed when I looked, I could see the page because I could see Facebook, the just public page, and I could see the only thing that was on it was, it said hacked.
Hmm.
And someone was proudly doing it. And I thought, well, is this some prank? What is this? And so I couldn't get in. And then I couldn't get into my Twitter, and I couldn't get into my blog, and I couldn't get into my website to update my website because I do my own website stuff. So I couldn't get into anything.
Hmm.
Then, to make matters worse, because I thought, well, maybe I just didn't have secure enough passwords, etc. Then I got my bank accounts drained,
Ew.
and I was broke. I had nothing. All of a sudden, in one day,
What?
it was like, boom, I had nothing. And I'm like, where are these charges coming? What's going on with this? But they froze the account because they put a flag on it and said clearly, so this is like suspicious activity.
Mhm.
But then what could I do? I had they wouldn't give me my money back. I had to go through this lengthy process of going through each and every charge and disputing it and doing a little paperwork and waiting and then having that one. It was just a nightmare. So in the meantime, I had a total media blackout. I had like zero money. And like, so I don't know. I always deal with this. Well, yeah, it could be the powers that be, but it could be some crazy person that's already been proven to hurt me. Either way, I'm I'm like out here trying my best to speak my mind and tell my side of things and just sort of, promote the truth wherever I can. But in the interest of disclosure, I have to say that yes, I do have a personal life and sometimes these things happen and, when they do, I am not maybe as active on Facebook as I need to be. And so I know a lot of people were concerned. I tried to keep, in touch, but it was really hard. And so, but I was finally able to get back into my Facebook. I never was able to get back into my Instagram. I had to get a whole new Instagram, and that kind of sucked. But it all worked out in the end. And so I'm happy to say that, I went through and I got some professional advice on how to secure everything so that this couldn't happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the best I could to reinforce that security. And I just kept plugging away and putting out my information, minus the actual names of the whistleblowers for their protection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to say that after all of the struggles and all of the things, I was able to get Land of the Watchers out to the public this week. So that
Congratulations.
thank you. So this has been a long time coming, and so I'm very
Thanks.
happy that it's finally out.
Yeah, and that's so stressful for you. I mean, the whole scenario was just so stressful. It's interesting. You must have hit a nerve with somebody, a lot of people, for them to push that hard. I'm interested in so far as you mentioned the guy who said you were warned. Is that all he said? There was no other
That
information,
was
no name?
nothing. It was a blue piece of paper, and it was handwritten, and it was all just they said you were
Weird.
warned, and it was immediately after. I had gotten back to my hotel room, and so I was in a Los Angeles hotel, and I went back in the hotel room, and then I got a call that there was a note at the desk for me, and so I went down, got the note, and it was this, and I'm like, nobody knows I'm here, like really, nobody, no, like this wasn't a big deal. I just went out for like 2 days, and so who knew that I was there and what's going? So I still don't know who that was. All I know is what happened when I released Sumerian Controversy and then subsequently started working on Land of the Watchers actively, weird stuff kept happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I hit a nerve. But in all fairness, I can't even say what that nerve was. Are these people upset because I'm talking bad about oil? Are they upset because I'm naming names? Are they upset because I'm divulging their maybe deeply hidden, esoteric belief systems? Are they upset because I'm just what is it? What is the nerve? It could be all of those. I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
Is it? Did you ever notify hotel security about that or no?
I did. I said, hey, do you see this? I don't know who this person is. And they're like, so there was a girl at the desk and she was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know who left that.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, it was a little like, I don't know. And
Well,
so
don't they have surveillance cameras? Can't they do a media review?
they,
That's my point.
they did. Yeah, I asked and they said that they couldn't, but because they said there would just be too much, but I would be able to contact the police and maybe they could get a subpoena and then I was like, oh, forget all that.
You know what? I work surveillance, in casinos, and I know that you can do media reviews if you have surveillance cameras, and it's not a big hassle. So that's why I was just asking if they had
That's
access.
interesting.
The front desk always has surveillance cameras, so you can't tell me they didn't see that person drop off that note.
Well, yeah, and especially because they said it just happened. So
Yeah.
then they could have probably gone back and just looked in the past like 20, 30 minutes.
Well, public shaming. What hotel is this? Can we say? Never mind.
It starts with a W. It's a main line.
All right.
It's not the Southton, Easton, or Northton.
Okay. So we understand now. Great. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves, right?
Right.
Oh, geez. But they could have reviewed that. That's just plain laziness.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't even, what, to be honest, I was a little like about that whole thing. And I just sort of wanted to just go home after that.
I don't blame you. My goodness. Well, I feel bad for you.
I travel alone. That's the problem.
You need a private bodyguard.
That, right?
You know what you need? You need security. You need your personal security guard.
And I didn't really even think about, because I travel alone. I go to conferences. I go on trains. I go on planes. I go on everywhere. And I just go by myself. And I'm like, whatever, here I am. I'm Heather. Well, like just naive. Well, I've since learned because I had a book signing in a little get local kind of thing. Well, I had to cancel it, and I felt so bad and guilty because I had people that were supposed to come, and the woman who put it together was so awesome, and I just was like, I can't come because, I have the security issue going on right now, and this guy was, that was looking for me, this, my attacker, has a warrant out, and he's out there looking for me, and so the only thing the police said was, well, you got to kind of lay low for a while, just watch your back, and so. I had this event all over my website and stuff, so he knew where I was going to be exactly when. So I didn't think it'd be a good idea to show up there. But the unfortunate part, and this is what I felt really bad about, was um, the the signing, because there were other authors. It was like a little fair type thing. They had problems with their security there because they had to up security because of me. So I actually caused them a problem, even though I ducked out of it to try to save them from that. I ended up causing, stress and heartache for them. And so I felt very bad. But yeah, I do think I need to probably get, security. But
Right. I would. Well, you can find people who will do some moonlighting. I mean, it probably wouldn't cost you a whole lot. I would look into it. Honestly, if this continues, you're going to have to do something to get some kind of a strong arm,
I
in my
started
opinion.
thinking that, especially after now that I hit, once I, got the, Land of the Watchers published, I was like, yes, it's out finally. And then I was like a sense of relief. And then it hit me like, wait a second, is this going to open a whole new chapter of, concern for me? Is this
Well,
something I have
it's
to deal with?
crazy. Let's let everybody know where they can get your book, first of all.
Well, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and everywhere like that.
Okay,
But
great.
right now, if you go on my website, right on the homepage, if you order it through my website, you can get it signed and free shipping with the code free ship.
Nice. That's awesome. And I encourage everybody to go ahead and purchase a copy. I can't wait to read it myself. I'm very excited. And of course, I'm sure they're probably getting a little frazzled with what you put in there. I'm surprised they kind of muscled you a little bit with their attorneys. But they always have attorneys on standby. That's their whole way.
Yeah.
It's all about bullying. It's always about pushing people around, controlling people. Especially
Yeah.
if you're gonna leak some information that they don't want the public to get their ears on.
The lawyer I talked to said, that I was under no obligation to these people. they,
Right. Yeah.
they were just saying that because they were hoping. His theory was that they were just saying that to sort of trick me, or like you said, strong arm me, or get me to feel that I had to do this for some reason and be
Hmm.
scared. And so, but I didn't. And you know what? After I said, I was like, no, I'm not doing this, and then I didn't respond. I never heard from him again. So clearly they weren't in the. But who knows? I don't know. I don't know who these people are. I don't know. But all I know is I must have ruffled some feathers with this one.
I think you really did. Well, it's interesting. It makes me wonder what exactly they got their hands on over there.
I
It
don't
really
know.
does.
Yeah, there's so much. Like I said, I have a lot of whistleblower accounts in Land of the Watchers that sort of talk about some of the possibilities, at least in terms of how they see it. And then I sort of analyze those possibilities and put my own take on it, my own thought. But I gotta say, I'm still not 100% sure about everything. So I'm going to continue this research. And, I like
Mhm.
the Sumerian controversy and Land of the Watchers. I knew going in that this was going to be a big beast. That this wasn't going to be just a little like neatly wrapped box. And so it's part of a series I call Mysteries in Mesopotamia series. So there's volume 1 and 2. And I'm probably going. I'm not. I don't know how active I'll be about doing it, but I'm definitely open to doing a third one if the data comes my way. So again, I look at these things. This particular series, I look at it as a bit of a crowdsourcing effort.
Mhm.
So I put out what I know, and I say, you know what? If anybody has any other information, give it to me. I will filter it. I will find out. And I will take the heat for it. You don't have to. You don't have to be named. I will just take this on and do this so we can get this out. But it seems to have worked so far because a lot of people have provided me with, very solid information.
Right. And of course, you're on the radar right now for everybody. I mean, insofar as we're all watching your back too. So, the more you're out there and communicating this information, the harder it is to do anything, in my opinion.
I think
So,
so.
oh, I think so too. I mean, you get out there and you put the truth out, they're going to be, it'll be mighty suspicious if anything happens to you. So, of course, we'll keep good shields around you too. But you'll be
Good.
okay. But
Thank you.
I know you have situation awareness, but yeah, you might want to ask the local police department if they can step up patrols around your house or where you live. That might be
Yes.
nice, huh?
Yes, and they did it. And I live in a very rural area, and that's
Mhm.
the problem. We have like, and I probably shouldn't even say this. We only have like 4 sheriff's deputies for the entire county. Like I live in, very like, bedroom community rural kind of area. So it was tough, but they were nice enough to send somebody when this was at its peak,
Right.
and I had all these concerns.
That's good.
They did send somebody out, so and they're very nice. So
Good.
I'm so blessed to live in an area where we don't have those like cops that are out, doing these horrible things to people.
Right.
I have kind
Nice
of like
guys.
Yes, we have kind of like a Mayberry type of police force.
Yeah, in the old days when they had nice cops. Yay!
I know in the old day, right? I mean, have you ever heard of such a thing? I
I
lived in Los
know.
Angeles. Let me tell you, I lived in Los Angeles before, and I was very young and I did not have a lot of money. And my girlfriend, who, we were like trying to live in LA and have fun and stuff, and she happened to be African American. And so we ended up living in an area that was not so nice. And so I actually lived in like South Central Los Angeles for a little while. And that is not the biggest deal. I mean, it is a dangerous area and all that, but I didn't think much of it, and I'm just driving around and doing my thing, and I got pulled over to death. And these LA cops pulled me over. It was like the whole driving while white. It's like the opposite of the driving while black, because what they wanted to do, and this was a different spin. They were like trying to act like they were helping me. They'd pull me over and say, "Why are you in this neighborhood? Are you buying drugs? Are you a prostitute?" I'm like, "I live here. I'm sorry, I'm poor, but I have to live here. This is where I live now." They're like, "Well, you shouldn't be here. Why?" And I used to get so much hassle. And then one time I was actually like assaulted by a Los Angeles policeman. I was sitting in a parking space, like I was in the passenger seat of a car in a like a Kmart type parking lot or a grocery store. I don't remember exactly, but the person who I was with, my friend Ayana, and we were like seriously like 18. Like this was ridiculous. I went in, I was just sitting there. She wanted to go in and get something out of the store. And I said, "I'm going to sit here." And she goes in. Next thing I know, I'm being forcefully removed from the vehicle. And there was a police officer, and he tossed me to the ground, and he then picked me up and threw me on the hood and starts going, he just went crazy on me. And I'm crying now at this point because I didn't know he was a policeman. I thought it was just all happened so fast. I thought I was getting just killed. And this was a policeman. Okay. And then he pulls me out and he says, "Stay there." And he starts going through my car. And well, it's not my car, but he goes through the car and he starts pulling stuff out, trash in the place. And I'm crying, and he gets up in my face, and then he puts his hand around my throat and he says, "You stop crying right now, or you're going to have we're gonna have big problems." And I'm just scared out of my mind. I'm 18 years old. I don't know what's going on. Then another cop came, and it was this bigger woman, and she sort of calms him down and comes over to me. And then what I find out is this: somebody had gone into this particular store, and they had like stolen something, and they thought there was a getaway vehicle.
Mm.
I'm in a parking space in the passenger side of a car. My friend Ayana comes out all like la 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 with some little drink, and she's like, "Look," and she comes out to this madness, and they're like, They said to her, like the woman said to her, "We're sorry about your car," but then but no one said anything to me, and here I am. I have a mark around my neck. I was assaulted by a policeman, and I'm like,
wow.
So I'm telling you, there are the police. This was seriously like what I was 18, so I'm 34. So how many years ago was that? It was a long time ago. I mean, seriously, it's been that way forever, and it's only gotten worse. And so I gotta say, I've seen and experienced some terrible cops in some areas that they feel that if there's more African Americans, or it's an expensive place to live, they're like vultures. They're predators. It's terrible. And they think they can do anything to young, poor people, especially people who would maybe be minorities. I wasn't, but I think that maybe if I was, it would have gone even worse for me. And that's terrible. And we see this now happening all the time. So the police, I mean, it's just a terrible thing. So I gotta give props to the police in my little county, because when I go to like little local things like fairs and stuff, these are the kinds of cops that actually still wear the hats. They stand there. They participate in the local events. They do little things. We know them by name. They go into the coffee shops. It's. I just want to put it out there that there are still places in this country where the police are peace officers. They're lovely people, and they are really there to help you. And so I gotta say, props to the police that are doing it right. And there are still some that are doing it right. So there is hope that they can get better.
There are some good ones out there. There's no doubt about it. And then the other ones that are just plain strung out. I mean, I think well, obviously they're stressed to some degree, but yeah, they need to learn how to have some self-control, in my opinion, if they're acting like that. But I understand they have to deal with a lot of criminals too. And I mean, I can understand where they'd lose their patience. But with you, I mean, don't they have situation awareness? I mean, come on. Did they assess the situation before they just rip you out of the car? I mean, come on, guys.
It was so crazy. I'll never forget. And you know what? And I don't know I just remember looking in this guy's eyes, and his pupils were very dilated. And I almost thought he might have been on something
Probably
himself.
was. Probably was.
I have no idea. He was a short man. I'm only 5'2". And he was like looking me straight in the eye. So he was a short man. So maybe he had a complex. I don't know,
He
but
probably did.
that lasted that has always burned in my mind forever, that wow, you can just be sitting peacefully, kind of looking at your phone and doing your thing in the passenger seat, and as an 18-year-old girl, just be popped out of the car and like almost assaulted. I'm not going to say
My
he
gosh.
completely assaulted me, but he tossed me around a good couple of times, and it
Gosh.
scared the living daylights out of
Yeah, it kind
me.
of makes you wonder if he still has a job, huh?
I know, right? I don't even know who he was. I don't
Yeah.
even remember,
He's
but
probably retired. He probably got kicked out or something. Who knows?
right.
Yeah, let's hope they flush the bad ones out and keep the good ones. That's the vision I hold anyway.
I know. I hope so too. We're you know what? We're in an age right now of revolution, and people
Hmm.
are waking up to this. And so I think there's less and less of a tolerance for this kind of corruption. And I think there's a longing for yesteryear where things were a little bit better. And I think that moving forward, we're going to hit some kind of point where, I'm more optimistic. I think things are going to get better as long as we keep spreading the truth and going out there and just talking. Because even if we can't actively do something about it, get out there and make a real change that we feel significant. I mean, if we're at least being, like you said, having situational awareness in a virtual sense, going online and understanding what you're looking at, what you're looking for, and having that critical thinking,
Hmm.
that's a step. That's a huge step. Even if you can't go out and be an activist, you can be an activist in your own personal sphere, just in your own consciousness. You can be like a conscious activist, if you will.
Hmm.
But, I think, and with history, I mean, that's where I usually, you know, focus my energy is history, because I think history is very important. I think that, if it weren't, we wouldn't see, ISIS and all these these kinds of organizations doing violence and destroying World Heritage sites if it wasn't an important thing, at least symbolically to people. So, that's why I say, why should we then care about? Because I've actually been asked this before. Who cares if big oil and mining, energy, and aristocratic families and all these nefarious groups, who cares if they go into the desert of another country and, take the artifacts? And I say, well, because the more we ignore the problems of this world, the less will ever change. And in terms of archaeology, we got to think about archaeology's place in our, policy and mindset. It's an important tool of influence. It's if you think about it, archaeology itself, the things that are discovered, the history that it reveals, the truths that it reveal, it's a sense of national pride to a lot of people, and that national pride can unify populations. So if you systematically erase the past, you can control the future by filling in the blanks with whatever you want people to believe. And this is what I call the weaponization of history.
Hmm. Yep, everything else is weaponized. Why not that, right?
Exactly. It's using history, against the people.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, it's everybody's birthright on a celestial level, on a starseed level. It's everyone's birthright to be able
Right.
to access this information. And you know what? Even if they hoard artifacts that have some kind of a maybe even a mystical power, it doesn't mean they're going to have any power, because usually
Right.
if their intent is vicious or greed oriented, they don't ascend to the level of frequency to activate the object, because it's usually about spiritual evolution or higher consciousness in order to activate certain objects like that anyway.
Right. No, I agree totally. I think that, it would be in vain.
Hmm.
It'd be a big disappointment if they ever, were able to harness this in some way. And think, I don't believe that, it would come to the fruition, if
Right.
you will. I think that, but this is the point, that a lot of people look at history. I'm a real advocate for history. Obviously, I love history. It's my passion. I live for it. And there are a lot of people who love history. They're history buffs. But there are a lot of other people who maybe they went to school and they were like, oh, history is just so boring. And I totally understand that, because believe it or not, when I was in high school, I hated history. It was the worst thing ever. I wanted to be a musician. I played French horn. I was in orchestras, and I still am. It's a
Hmm.
hobby now. But I thought, I'm going to be a music teacher or do this. That. History was not even on my radar. I liked it in an informal sense, but in an academic sense, I wanted to just be shot. I was like, this is the most boring thing I've ever heard.
Hmm.
Well, it wasn't until I became, older and was exposed to real history that it just ignited this passion, this undying passion in me. And I think that is what they're trying to fight when they want to sort of hide history. We talk a lot about hidden history.
Hmm.
Well, a lot of history is hidden from us, and I don't know that it's necessarily because they're afraid that we're going to find out what happened in our past. It could be some of that, but I think what it is that they don't want people to have the critical thinking that necessary to understand history. So I think what they do is then they go in public policy and whatnot, they make history out to be something very boring. It's just like, I mean, you can, I'm sure, remember history class when you're a kid. It's just like, when was the War of 1812? 1812, yeah, whatever. It was very boring. It wasn't as engaging unless you had a really great teacher. Generally speaking, it was just facts and figures.
Right.
And so people just think that it's just a bygone era. It's just, okay, these are the things that happened. Now we know it now, and then move on. But nothing really in history is firmly established. And as a historian, I can assure you that right now, as we speak, scholars are actively debating and questioning almost every historical fact out there. Everything that we've taught that has been just as truth, there are people right now writing their dissertations on, debunking that. So you can't let anybody tell you that it's all figured out and then go memorize these facts and then repeat it,
Hmm.
because that's simply control.
Right.
That's just control. So we have to fight for free thinking. And so we have to read authors and theories that the mainstream sort of shuns. And we have to embrace our cultural heritage and likewise embrace the cultural heritage of other people. And we have to kind of just open ourselves to possibilities.
Hmm.
Most
Exactly.
importantly, we have to we have to sort of create a public discourse about these issues and other issues about our past so that the only history makers are us.
Right. I agree.
We need to make history, not the academics. The academics don't need to actually do this. I took a class, and I say this often, but it still blows my mind to this day. I remember taking a class called Making History, and it was all about how to make history. And now it's not like totally controversial, but I guess it just sort of sat with me as something that seemed like almost a power trip. Like, all right, it's your responsibility as a historian to, interpret the past. And so whatever you see fit in forming a narrative, that's the history, and that's what you should teach. So really what it is, it's, I don't know if you're familiar with the author Michael Cremo,
Hmm.
but he discusses this idea of the knowledge filter, whereby a large set of archaeological evidence or even historical evidence gets dropped below a horizon of cognition. But Cremo believes that this is like unintentional, whereas I believe that this is sometimes intentional.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely, it is. In my
And so
opinion.
so I agree that there is a knowledge filter, and when you're a historian or an archaeologist, you are the filter.
Right. Yeah, use discernment. Plus, if you roll up your sleeves and just dive in, I mean, you wind up having more expertise in these areas than most people who don't. Even these quote unquote, I don't call them elite, whatever you want to call them, the greed ones with lots of money and the illusion of.
Yeah,
But seriously, I
exactly.
mean, it doesn't mean they're geniuses like you were saying before, just because they have access to everything. That makes them very wealthy and basically privileged to some degree insofar as acquiring things. But when push comes to shove, they may not have the psyche or the consciousness to decode it.
Absolutely, exactly, and that's why people say, "Well, should we?" I've been asked this, should we be afraid?" I'm like, "No, we should not be afraid. There is nothing to fear, except the unknown." So, what do we have to do? We have to make things known. We have to be enlightened. We have to look for the truth, and we have to be confident and just kind of say, you know what, these people, even if they, like you said, even if they have the means and the wherewithal, it doesn't really mean that they have the ability to harness any of this power that they may come encounter with. You can listen. If I went to, Sears right now, okay, and I could spend a ton of money. I could buy a giant like tool, and I couldn't even tell you the name of the tool because this is how inept I am with that kind of thing. So let's just call it some big tool that's fancy at like, Sears. It's a ton of money. I could go buy that right now and bring that home, and this tool might have the ability to like do a host of things, but in my hands, it's not doing anything except confusing me. I am not a tool kind of person. The best I can do is a hammer. So, it's a waste on me because I just don't have what it takes to really, harness the power of this tool. That doesn't mean that the tool is powerless. It doesn't mean that it's not, able to create wonderful things. It's just in the wrong hands, it's worthless.
Right.
So I could work my hind end off to acquire this like magnificent tool. And then I'm stuck with it and it's for nothing. And so I think, well, I'll have it. I'll just display it and show all my friends. Whereas you have people who are mechanically inclined and very intelligent, and maybe they don't have the means, but they could do something amazing, like put an engine together, or just, they would know if they had access to that tool, they could make magic happen. They could fix things or, build something from the ground up or whatever this tool would have the capability to help them with, so in the right hands, these tools can do amazing things. And so I think, like we were talking about the vibrational aspects of this, I think that we don't have much to fear. We got to have faith in the fact that even though they have the means to acquire whatever, it doesn't mean they can do anything with it significantly.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's from what I've seen, it's all about pushing their money around and bullying people and buying people off and controlling, manipulating, and hoarding. They like to
Oh,
hoard a
yeah.
lot, don't they? And a
Yeah,
lot of those things, I'm sure, are collecting dust at this point in the continuum.
I'm
To some
sure.
degree, or they use it for blackmail purposes. I mean, I can go on and speculate, but to some degree, yeah. And it's funny how you said you played the French horn. That's not an easy instrument to play.
No, it wasn't. You know what? I started when I was 10, so
Yeah.
I've had plenty of years now.
Cool. Well, I played the flute, but that's an easier
Oh, wow.
instrument. Yeah.
It's good times. Yeah, I
Huh?
played the piano and the French horn. I used to play handbells. I did singing. I
Cool.
did saxophone. I was all into that.
Saxophone. I never liked
Yeah,
saxophones much. Did you like playing the
I
saxophone?
I did. I did. I played the tenor sax. I thought that was it was kind of easy because after going from French horn where you only have the three valves,
Mm-hmm.
you have to sort of feel your way through the sounds. The saxophone, it was like the keys were all there. It was like, oh, okay, it was more methodical, and so it was fun. But nah, the French horn's my heart. I still play.
Nice. That's a pretty instrument. Yeah, I like those. That's great. That's kind of neat. I like that.
Love music.
Yeah.
Still love music.
Do you write music?
I do. I
Excellent.
actually do. I'm more into classical and that kind of thing, and actually liturgical music. I was raised Catholic, so while I don't practice anything like that currently, I still have a soft spot for that type of music, and so I'm really into a lot older Renaissance type music and that kind of thing. Sometimes it sounds like there's a mass going on in my house because of the music that I listen to.
I used to like the harpsichords. I really like those a lot.
It is beautiful, yes.
Yeah. Well, you should put a CD out if you're really bored sometime. You feel like being creative. Get some music rolling.
I don't know. I don't know that people would listen. It might
I
be
would. No, seriously. Well, you never know. I'm telling you.
Oh,
Well, I
yeah.
think your book's going to be a hit. You might take a few people off, but so what?
So
You have a
what?
lot of people backing you up. So
I'm moving on. I'm doing
yeah.
something a little less controversial after this. So
Just tell them to step in line if they have a problem. I mean, that's the idea.
exactly. Take a number.
Just get in line. Yeah. It's around the corner and way down.
That's right.
This gets old after a while, doesn't it? It's
This
just like,
gets old.
yeah.
Yes. I'm working on something less controversial now, like moving on. I've been working on this a little bit here and there, but now I have enough time to put my full focus on getting it out. So it's a book
Nice.
called Evil Archaeology.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, I'm going to talk about the demons and jinn and possession and sinister
Well, I want to read that.
artifacts. Yes.
Excellent.
So that should be a lot of fun.
When's that coming out?
I'm not sure. I'm only about halfway through the research end of it, and I want to get a few more interviews in. I've interviewed a few exorcists, but there's one person in particular that I'm dying to get an interview with, and very famous person that had a lot of. Let's just say he's a fellow author, but he's a fiction author who had a lot of influence in this let's say exorcist type arena. So I've been working with those people to try to get in touch with this particular person. So I don't want to jinx it yet until I can get them. But if I can get them, it'd be like, oh, it'd be fascinating. So yeah. So this book will be it'll be insightful, but it's going to be a little fun, but also a little frightening. And that's sometimes it's good to be scared, right?
Well, it's education. Knowledge is power. Once again, people need to be aware of certain things. There is the thing of electronic possession too. So that's another animal altogether.
Oh, fascinating. I'm not familiar.
That's a
with
technological possession. Yeah, I can talk about it sometime.
Oh,
Yeah,
you'll have
it
to tell
mirrors
me about
regular
that.
possession. It's just, boy, it comes in all forms and designs, let me tell you.
Oh, that's frightening. Oh,
Yeah,
I
it
gotta.
is. There's a lot of weirdness. I was going to ask you, that guy was commenting on he was commenting on the Watchers, but was he referring to the Nephilim?
He was, but
Okay.
he was referring to the Watchers. He was referring to a group within his family and circle of people
Okay.
that they called themselves the Watchers, sort of like a
Okay.
club, but they did it as a nod to the Watchers that they knew as being like the Nephilim, the Sumerian gods and that kind of thing. So they were familiar with those myths, and they sort of wore it like a badge of honor and said, "Oh no, we're the Watchers
Well,
because we have all the knowledge." So
I,
this is how they're
in one of my books, I put Ascended Watcher in there as whatever, like celestial heritage. We're all Ascended Watchers, in my opinion. If you're connected to the starseed consciousness, it's just really about higher consciousness. It's not about these
you know
demonic forces.
I think you're right, and I think that the thing that's why I don't have as much fear as maybe some about these groups thinking this, because
Right.
if their consciousness isn't where it needs to be, they're not watching anything.
No, they're not, and I can guarantee you, their consciousness is really not there. And that's why
Right.
they use mind control, mass mind control, and they want to manipulate the masses because they want to pull everybody down to a lower frequency so they can rise above and pretend they're the gods and the illusion of it. Really, they're not. They're just subhuman class, in my opinion, with a lot of
Absolutely.
money. And that may sound harsh, but truly, that's what they are. I'm not impressed by them at all.
No, no, and they do this all in it's the earthly realm that they feel that they have the power. It's
Right.
not that consciousness, and that's I write about that in both anthrotheology, and I touch on it again in Land of the Watchers, because you bring that up as a very important point, that this is really about consciousness and
Mhm.
that idea of control. It's you can they are the controllers, but they're the corporeal controllers. They're not your spiritual controllers. They don't control consciousness.
Not at all.
Not
And,
at all.
no, and they're going to get squashed in the multiverse, and I can guarantee you, and I'm going to laugh when that happens, but I know it's coming. So,
Yeah.
on the bigger scale of things, when push comes to shove in the end of ends and the illusion of space and time, yeah, they're going down. That's
I
just my
believe.
own take, and but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yeah.
I think I agree with you right on. I'm much more hopeful. I see there's a lot of, concern, but I feel we have to be vigilant. But I'm really one of those people that I feel very optimistic about this. I think that, we really do have more power than sometimes we give ourselves credit for.
Hmm.
On
Oh,
an
absolutely.
individual basis,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, you realize you're a soul spirit, and I've always touched on this, that we're ancient. I mean, we're immortal. Souls are immortal. I mean, what more can you ask for? We're just not aware of it. People have been slept. They don't understand
Right.
their celestial heritage. They don't understand their star beings. They come from the multiverse. I mean, that's our essence of origin. Whether you like
Right.
it or not, it's in our cells and our atoms and our DNA. And yet people forget, and they're on the timeline, and they get lied to. And of course, these quote, I call them education camps, the regular schools, because what are they
Hmm.
learning, as we have touched on?
How to
Censored
yeah,
data. Yeah.
yeah,
How
yeah.
to go to prison, I guess.
Yeah. How to respond to bells.
Right.
The
Yeah.
bell rings, get up, you have 20 minutes to eat, you can go to the bathroom if, go, boom,
Sounds like
boom,
a prison to
whatever.
me. Well,
It
I always
sounds
spent
like
my
it.
time looking out the window, so
Me too.
is that time? Yep, there you go.
Me too.
The
Oh goodness.
creative one.
I know, right? I went to a Catholic school too. So
Oh, gee.
we didn't just have bells. We had like a clicker that said click, click, now you genuflect, click, click, now you get up. Now you go. Oh my goodness. We had I was trained like a dog, let me tell you.
Wow, what a bummer. So yeah, I won't mention any sarcasm with like the Blues Brothers when they call for the penguin.
I know.
Was it that bad though? Seriously, were
It
they?
was.
Oh,
It
really?
was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. It was, yeah, good times.
Well, I
Hey,
applaud you for getting through it. You've Sounds like you've gone through a lot of different things and you've come out shining. So
well, life's good.
I
Even
know.
when it's bad, even the worst things, it's hard to see when you're in the moment.
Right,
But when you come out of it, you can look back and say, if it hadn't been for that, then I wouldn't have gone to this step, to this step, to this step. So, you know,
right.
you never give up.
I agree. What I'd like to see you do is write a children's book on archaeology.
Really.
I don't know if
I
you ever touch on that, but it might be kind of cool.
Maybe so. I had thought about doing a children's book. I have an illustrator who's amazing, and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool to collaborate, with this illustrator, this artist, and but I just, I wasn't sure, but that might be something I should do.
That would be really interesting. And I'd like to see you teach. And I know you probably wouldn't want to be teaching at the universities, but have you given it some thought?
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I used to, and then now, I've thought about going at least for adjunct, maybe here and there, but I'm so busy with these other things. I
Mhm.
keep saying I'm going to go back and maybe teach a few classes and do that, and then I just don't. I thought about it last fall. I thought maybe I'd go back and do something like that, and it just I don't know. Maybe I just keep getting drawn to what I'm doing, and I just really like the track that I'm on. And I have a lot of opportunities right now. Like I got a lot of things in the works, and so I don't know how much time I'll be able to have moving forward. A lot of cool opportunities, possibly, in media and different things that I'm kind of pursuing, but not all the way because I'm very skeptical about media.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not going to do something unless I've had experiences. And I can tell you, and again, I write, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I do write about this in Land of the Watchers as well, about my experiences with dealing with, some of this media and sort of how I've experienced the, push of disinformation on this alternative side.
Mhm.
Because the alternative stuff is just becoming so big that now the mainstream is seeing, oh my gosh, this is huge. And what they're trying to do is emulate the alternative media, and they're doing it in a way that is just it's just
I've noticed that.
contrived.
Yep, I've noticed the same thing. They're running with it, but it's just warped and distorted, and it's
Yeah,
sensationalism, and
totally.
it's
There you go.
ridiculous,
It's
absolutely insane. Yeah.
amen. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I've experienced. So when I get approached and I'm, in discussions with certain people about, developing certain ideas for, mass consumption, if you will, without giving anything away, I'm very cautious because I'm not here to be some kind of talking head or celebrity. I don't need all that drama. I'm here to get the word out and do what I need to do. And so if opportunity comes knocking, I gotta still find out if it's gonna be the right thing to do. I'm not just gonna get on some bandwagon because it might be cool or it gives me money or
Mhm.
it's, no, I don't care about all that. I want to, inform people. And if somebody gives me the opportunity to do that in a way that, I find integrity in,
Mhm.
I am on it. So
Right.
maybe that'll work out. I'm very hopeful. I'm very optimistic. So I think that, there's definite possibility for that in the future.
Well, that's
Um,
called integrity, Heather, and I can appreciate that very much. You don't get sold out into the world of weird.
Right. I am
And
I am
a
no
lot of
no
people
shame.
do, and you're very grounded and down to earth, you don't have an ego at all. Not like these other people that are out there, which
I'm
is a
telling you,
turnoff, you
it's
know.
that it's you got, sometimes in life when you go through some stuff, they say it's terrible when you're going through stuff that, oh, it builds character. Well, no one wants to hear that and that but you know what? Coming out of that after a while, I think it does. You,
Yeah.
you just you have to go through the bad to appreciate the good. You have to be in the dark so you recognize the light.
Yep, absolutely. I agree with you. Definitely. Well, I think you have a big future ahead of you. There's no doubt about it. And of course, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, they can do that at your website, drheatherlynn.com.
They can always do that. I have my phone number on there. I got calls. I was on coast to coast, like you said the other night, and afterwards, my phone rang all day.
Oh,
I was
geez.
exhausted. I was up 24 hours. I felt bad for some of the people calling because they had questions and wanted to share things, but I was like, my brain was fried.
You
But
actually talk to all those people?
I
That's
talk
really
to
nice of you.
anybody who calls me. I answer it. It goes right to my cell phone. I answer. So if anyone wants to call me, because here's what I've learned. There's a lot of independent researchers out there who have ideas and they just simply want to have somebody listen and tell them and validate them somehow. Hey, is this right? Because, sometimes they do all this work, but then they put it out there and they try to go to universities or wherever, and they won't even get interviews. They won't even get time to talk. So I try my best to at least listen to people first and then give them my honest opinion. Do they have something? Could they, because who else is doing that? Nobody's doing that. It's a terrible, terrible thing, and that to me is elitism. And
Hmm.
I don't care about education. I don't care about all this stuff. It's about, are you there for the people? Are you there for people? Are you there for your fellow people? You're a
Hmm.
person too. We're all in this together. We shouldn't be like on pedestals or whatever just because one person went down one road and another person went down a different road.
Right.
We all have something to gain. I gained more wisdom. I was homeless for a while when I was young. I lived in, South Central Los Angeles when I was 18. I have seen some characters talk to people and I've learned more from them than I think that I ever did in, say, any of my freshman
Hmm.
classes at the community college or wherever, like
Right.
when I first entered that stuff. I mean, you got to get out there and deal with people, and you learn more from your fellow, man than you
Hmm.
can learn from any, I think, textbook.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, you need to get the pulse and see what's going on out there. Good or
Absolutely.
bad. You need to see. And of course, people aren't really interacting as much, I think, because they're too busy looking at their iPhones. You know,
Yeah.
so that's
So,
another thing altogether. But
yeah,
I mean, they are communicating indirectly, but it's a little different. But I still like meeting people one on one. I still like looking in their eyes and shaking their hands,
I do.
opposed to just this kind of virtual kind of thing.
Yeah, I do too. And that's something that was always important to me because when I was, first starting out and I started having those inclinations to maybe go renegade, I contacted a few authors that I kind of admired. And, I'm young and wide-eyed, like, oh, I'm going to contact them and maybe people didn't respond, but Michael Cremo did. And that meant a lot to me at that age and that time in my life. And I thought, wow, that was great. And he gave me great advice. He was very genuine. And I swore that, you know what, if ever I had any sphere of influence, no matter how small, if anybody contacted me, I'm going to contact them back. So what I usually put on my, you know, website is, it might take me a while depending on how busy I am with something or another, but I will contact you back. Even if it's a month later, I will contact you back. And it's not going to be just a little line or some canned response. I'm gonna basically type a novel to you because I like to talk and I like to write. So so if you open that can of worms, maybe you better be prepared for what you're getting back from me. So.
I think it's wonderful. And Heather, we're just about to wrap this up here. It's been a pleasure. It's always wonderful to have you on the show. I'm so thankful that you're back, and it's great. Always come back and share information with us. And anytime you want to come back and talk about what's going on in your orbit, please do so.
Oh, thanks. I love being here. I love talking to you. You're so great. And I love your audience. Everybody's so wonderful. Thank you so much.
You. Thank you. It's an honor. And like I said, I have so much respect for who you are and where you've been and what you're doing now. So we'll keep good shields around you and keep those creeps away.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And I do want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope you appreciate the information. And stay tuned for Shine a Side Out with David Dunger and Becky coming up next to Sail You On Into the Night from Down Under, as they always do. And let's see here. We're just about ready to wrap this up. Are you planning on doing any public speaking, Heather?
You know, I've been asked that a few times. I think moving into 2016 that I might. I think I will. I thought about doing some seminars on my own.
Nice.
So if I get invited to a speaking event, I might consider that as well. But I think I might give some serious thought into developing a presentation just to, hit the road with that a little bit.
Excellent. Well, I'm really excited to read your book, and of course, best of luck with that. And I'm sure that it's going to be just fine. It'll all blow over, whatever's going on. Actually,
sure. Negative
publicity is good publicity too, so they say, right?
So they say.
Now everybody will buy your book because they're like, well, what is it? We got to read it now.
Right.
That's for sure. So, are you doing any traveling too, or no, or any digs anywhere, or anything like that?
I have been working here in Ohio on some, we have a lot of mounds and different things, but I'm in Northeast Ohio, and a lot of people don't associate this area with any of the earthworks, but there are a lot of earthworks. So I'm looking into the earthworks here, and one site in particular that's said to have an Ohio pyramid.
Cool. All right. Well, you'll have to come back next time and share that with us. We're out of time. Thank you again, Heather. It's been a pleasure. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great week.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.